love is me. Love is gonna set you. Oh, I love that. I love that. Sometimes I go through this thing where I am just like on it. I love that. Mm. You know how we have certain singers that you just love, and it's like never a bad time to listen to them. Well, Natalie Cole happens to be one of those for me. And I was trying to listen to something else this morning. I wanted to hear this. I called it Seasons, but apparently my device did not recognize that name. And so it said, okay, but here's some other songs by her. And so started playing the music by Natalie Cole, and it never did get to the song that I was looking for. I called it Seasons, but I don't know what exactly it's called. Um, and now because I've been jamming for the last 15 minutes to her other music, now I can't even recall the lyrics for some reason. It's just gone from out of my mind. Um, Suki Sava, dum, 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 dum. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. For some reason, I just wanted to hear that. Yeah, that's just such a beautiful song for me. And yeah, I don't know how anybody else's song is. Grand Rising to you, Walker. How are you? Yeah, it's just such a beautiful song for me. And so I wanted to hear that. But then, love is going to set you free. Hey, Kim. Good morning. Yeah, it was just it was there. I was there. I was on my groove with Natalie Cole, and just a good morning. And I hope all of you are having an amazing morning too. You're encouraged, Walker. I'm so, you know what, in ah, you know sometimes I I I get so full about everything, and so I'm glad that you bring your encouraged here, and all of us together can feel this. I trust all is well for you, and it's just good. It's good. So I'm glad you're sharing your energy with me today. Um, it's really interesting because this morning as I was in the shower, I was just, I sometimes, so I get to do my meditation and my journaling, and I did some reading this morning instead of working on my book, which I know I should have done. But I started doing some reading, and not even the reading stuff that's due for class tonight. I was reading something totally different, and as I got in the shower, I was just so grateful and thankful for the ability to read and comprehend, and that people feel, you know, that they want to share, that they want to share their thoughts, their ideas, the way that they see this universe coming together. And so I'm so grateful for for people sharing. And that's what writing is. Sometimes we get caught up on egotistical stuff. Who was it that I saw? Was it Dick Gregory, who was talking about, and I love people who will challenge what it is that we see, that we say, that we think. And so I think it was a Dick Gregory little piece that I saw that was criticizing that crabs in a barrel mentality. Like people sit up and talk about our folks as if this crab in the barrel mentality. And he says, damn that. He says, check the water that makes them want to crawl out. You know, is it so bad, right, for a person to want to do better, to have better? We want to, why criticize that? Why not say, you know what, all of us need to get up out of this mud, right? And so it's not about, oh, that this person is also trying. It's like, how do we create the circumstances where none of us are stuck in a freaking barrel? How about that, right? How about saying that that's abnormal? Like, why would they be in the barrel? Right? I mean, do we ever really stop and think about what we say and the ways that we say it, as if something is inherently wrong with wanting to do different? I years ago, I was looking out the window at John F. Kennedy. I was in a classroom with John F. Kennedy, and I just happened to be looking out the window on that particular day. And as I looked out the window, I'm looking and I'm seeing this. It was nothing. It was nothing out of the ordinary. It was just, the same old street that I had looked at 1,000 times. But what I saw there was so interesting to me. It was almost as if I saw this energy vortex that was sucking from the very air, from the very vibratory air that was out there. And I said to myself that this place will sap your energy if you let it, right? If you are, and who was this woman that says that if you are not purposely keeping it up, especially after a certain age, if you are not purposely keeping it up, it's going down. And so there is something that we have to actually intentionally offset things that would pull us down. Even mentalities, thoughts, and ideas, we've got to actively offset that. And so the moment we hear things that don't correspond to where we want to be in our thinking, is we've got to do that reverse. It's it's um it's just the way that things are. I mean, I know it. We would love for it to be different, right? We would love for everybody to, um, you know, for everybody to be, a particular way. Oh, but even in that, this idea that everybody should be a particular way. Here's the interesting thing. The moment we are sitting there and we're thinking that we know how things ought to be, we create an environment that then otherizes, puts people outside of, makes them different, and makes them inherently wrong. And so the act of that shooting on people is something that we have got to work against. However, we've been taught over and over again that there is a right way and there is a wrong way. And so most of us try to be in the right way, and we have all these others that are doing it the wrong way. And it allows the people who are doing it the right way to judge the people who are doing it as they perceive the wrong way. Well, guess what? You have been wrong for far too long. I know you don't think, oh, but not to me. I pronounce my words correctly. I do everything so correctly. I sit with my legs closed. I pronounce my T's. I do all the things that I have been told that I'm supposed to do. I straighten my hair. You know, we got all of these things that we think is the right way to do things, and we do them and think that somehow that makes us better than or puts us a little bit closer to where we desire to be. I'll never forget when this is I don't know why that the pain of that just came up for me. But when I went overseas to go to school, there was you know how you're in a group and there is a pecking order to the group. There is a pecking order. And so you know the people who were the popular people who had stuff, right? Whose parents were well off or whose, and then you had those people who were kind of like I don't know, I don't want to say the outcasts, but they were the not so popular people. And then you had me. I'm gonna put it that way. I went when I went to overseas to go to school. I went through a program called the Study Abroad program through the university I was in, and let's say that there were I don't know if I don't quite remember how many of us it was. Was it 9 or 11 or some odd number? But we were all going, and so there were a couple of popular, the popular women. The one woman had this thick blonde hair and very uppity attitude. She was, she felt like she was the top. Then there was a redhead that was extremely sexy and sexual, and she kind of flaunted her ability to um, handle people, right? Not so smart, but what she lacked in one area, she made up for in another area. Then there were these two dorky white girls, right? So, and then there was me. So, out of the five women, there's the blonde, the redhead, the two dorky ones, and then there's me. And for some reason, I had this perception in my mind that I did not fit in with the two dorky ones at all, and that I should be in with actually the two more popular ones. That was my perception of myself. And then the guys were just, on a totally different thing. But we were all living in this villa, and we only had I think, the 5 rooms between us that we then had to function in. So the two popular girls were in the one nicer room, and they shoved me in with the 3 other women into one room that was not so nice. As a matter of fact, there was condensation in this old stone villa, which meant my sheets at night were always feeling as if they were damp. I stayed there maybe 3 to 4 nights, and I was just like, yep, I am not doing this. This is where you get the line. Nobody puts baby in the corner, right? From that Flash, what it wasn't Flash Dance, it was whatever that movie was with Patrick Swayze and the other girl, some dance show. But nobody puts me in a corner and makes me sit. And so I was there 3, maybe 4 nights before I had found another person to share an apartment with. And I moved the heck out because, yeah, you don't get to evaluate me and me stay within those confines. But it was hurtful for me in finding out that I didn't make the cut. And so, a lot of times, whatever our perceived impression of ourselves is, when we are the ones that are then othered, you know, like not you, then there is this like, whoa, wait a minute, hold up. And am I, if I agree with that, then that means that I sit in the place that you have appointed me and I make do. But you know I ain't that one. I'm not that one. So yes, I was like, bye bye. I had to go. I had to go and see what it do, right? I had to go and see what it does. So it was a interesting, you know, and one of the things about things like this is that while we may react in the instant, there are things that will teach us for years to come. And hopefully, the lessons that you may have learned, sometimes even on the playground when you were in elementary school, this idea of, you know, them picking teams and you're not wanting to be chosen last. And there is this thing of not only not being chosen last, but what order was I then selected in? If I wasn't by the team captain, if you weren't selected 1, 2, you know, like in the first 2 top slots, there's this feeling of, wait a minute, wait one darn minute. And this goes into our estimation of ourselves. So, you know, sports may not be your thing because, you know, it's definitely, um, it was definitely not necessarily, well, I don't want to say it wasn't my strong suit, but I was usually a second or third rung player. I wasn't always first, just depending upon what the game was, right? But definitely not a last, right? Definitely not the last one. Now, I will tell you, I have been chosen last in certain areas, right? When it comes down to, and this goes back to that othering thing, when it comes down to being compliant, right? People be rolling eyes like, uh-oh, Sandra about to be up in here? Because I am a rocker of the boat. I am definitely a boat rocker. And if you don't want your boat rocked, you don't call me. I, and I don't apologize for it because I always say, I always have this idea that when I'm in a room, I'm there for a purpose, and it's not to be a wallflower. So yes, I am not always the one that is picked. My friend Alan is so funny because he is an intellectual, and he also is a boat rocker. Now there are certain areas in which, you know, he will be fine sitting over there and not being engaged, but doggone it, when it comes down to issues that seem to matter, whoo. And so, where do you put yourself in that scenario, right? What is it that you think that you bring to a party, whether it's a party or a conversation or the arenas that you find yourself in. Some people, what your thing is, and it's really hard to sit back and say nothing. I got a call last night from my little sister, and she was talking about how they had this how do I want to say it? It was a potluck for Black History Month, and she was talking about all the food that was there that they brought. Like people were really bringing out food, and so she talked about that she made potato salad, and somebody else made something else, and somebody else made this, that, and the other. And I guess there was a conversation about people's ability to cook. My other sister, she's always talking about she's got this one girlfriend who swears she can cook, but they don't like nothing she cooks, and so they're always trying to dissuade her from cooking. And so, as my little sister was having this conversation, they were saying, "Oh yeah, my mother tried to give me some greens, and I just, I took them, but I threw them out before I got home," or about throwing away people's food because they can't say, I don't like that. And so Val says, oh, sorry. She says, no, we don't do that in our family. She was like, if something ain't right, if we don't like the way it tastes, we gonna tell you. And she told me that she goes through and she says she was talking about how they talk about the stuff and how we do in my family, and sometimes we're really nice about it, but I will tell you, we get our chuckle on when like, damn, what you do, what was that, like, we will get our laugh on, and razz you a bit if it's not up to par, right? And so she says Sans favorite thing to say is, hmm, that's interesting. She was talking about how I'm always talking about stuff is interesting. She says, and so you don't say straight out that it's nasty, it's interesting, and then you just don't touch it anymore. and and it's because there's nothing worse than wasting some good calories on something that you don't want. I'm just like, yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I got other options, right? So it's just funny to me how differently people operate, and the level at which people are willing to go to not, I'll say it like this, not hurt another person's feelings. But now here's when I talk about this idea of life provides us with the lessons that we need for our growth. And sometimes when we don't show up in our fullness and speak our truth, we cheat other people out of their ability to grow. Now, I know that you might think that, oh, that's not a growth thing. But being able to have conversation, to speak your truth, to engage in a conversation or talk to somebody where you're not naming them as you have a conversation is a point of growth. I mean, being able to show up and whatever. So everybody does not like the same thing. Who was that? I got another girlfriend that was telling me, oh yeah, for Lent, so and so is gonna do plant based, and I was like thinking, is that what is that? Like, is that a punishment? Is that I don't know, but I'm plant based for the most part anyway. I eat fish, but I don't I don't eat fish, that often. It's like I'm predominantly plant based, and maybe a couple of times a week I'll have something that is, you know, flesh that is a fish or a crustacean. But that's, that is where, that's my sweet point. That's where I'm at anyway. And so when we talk about going into this Lenten season and somebody says that, oh, I'm giving up something that I've already given up, it's just kind of funny to me because I think, oh, is that like a stretch for you? Is that a stretch? So and what I recognize is that some people, yes, that's a stretch. And so kudos to you. And maybe what you will do is see that it's not as bad as it may seem. As a matter of fact, there is a trend towards people who are giving up that stuff anyway. When you think about all the things, all the benefits to the planet, no less, that encourages, it is something that people partake on. So I don't know what your thing is or any of this stuff, but I'm so appreciative of all the things that we do in order to become more fully who we are. It is a efforting that we all can put in at any given time to show up in our fullness and to speak our truth without it meaning to or otherizing other people. So I just get so excited about all of this stuff. And when I was talking earlier about what I was reading before I came on, one of the things that he talked about was this idea of when we get caught up in our judgments about things, those judgments necessarily make you right and somebody else wrong. And wonder if we tried to work in a world that worked for everyone, not just us, right? So that we're not cutting somebody else out or putting somebody else down with the idea that it's about lifting ourselves. Because when you do that, when you're lifting yourself, when you're putting yourself as primary and not recognizing other people. Oh yeah, in Rio de Janeiro, there was they unearthed under this place they were doing, you know how all of a sudden they start excavating an area like they're going to tear down a building and put up some new stuff, and they excavated this area, and underneath the streets in this particular area, I don't have exactly the name. I did write it down, but they, as they excavated the street, what they found was bones. They found people buried up under there, and they talked about this idea of civilizations and how civilizations come into being or flow out of being. Yuval Harari, I want to say that that's how you pronounce his last name. Yuval Harari wrote this amazing book about the history of the world. And as you read this history of the world, it talks about the things that civilization has done in the name of progress. I nowadays wonder where it is that we fall when we talk about this thing of progression. The other day, so let me just finish up this idea with Yuval. One of the things that he talked about was we talk about the extinction of the dinosaur era, and he says that the extinction was not just accidental, but was rather something that was um, facilitated by man. And so it set out to kill the dinosaurs because the dinosaurs were a threat. even the ones that were after vegetation, they treated them as a threat. And so you might ask, well, how did man kill dinosaurs? And he says that because they found it very difficult to fight dinosaurs, what they did was they either attacked them as babies or attacked them as eggs, right? So if it is that they were laying eggs, or if they were born alive, but then, um, you know, they were babies, they set out to kill all the little ones, which after a while, of course, extinctions makes an extinction of the bigger ones. So that there was a concerted effort to do that. And civilizations that rise and fall, it a lot of times is the Anthropocene is based on man's interaction with his environment. And so they say that the biggest threat to man is always man. And so when you think about it from those kinds of standpoints, what is it? Who are we being? So when I read an article just the other day that talked about this idea, and I forget what state it's in, but they have passed legislation now that because I don't know where it is. It's not in Texas, but it's someplace. That they passed legislation where they are now going to fly helicopters over areas and shoot cows from up aerially, because the cows that are grazing, or cows that are wild feral cows that are just out there without ownerships, they are saying are causing problems with land. And so it is their idea that they will now be killing any cows that are not like that are out there just wandering free. And so as I thought about this, I thought to myself, like, wow, where do we stand with things like this? I mean, do you realize, we all have to realize that in other countries, cows are sacred. I mean, and even when I go down to, when I've been in other countries, Mexico or stuff, it's nothing to drive down the street and see a cow out there in the, just grazing out on the side of the road or in between the highway or something like that. It's nothing to see that. But now we've got people that are in helicopters that will be shooting cows that they see roaming freely. And to think about that, there will be carcasses left out there that will, decompose. This becomes questions, questions that we ask ourselves about, you know, where we stand as far as life and all of this. Um, One of the things in Vipassana, the prayer that we always closed with was, may all beings be happy. Part of the contract when I went into that meditation retreat was is that during the time that I was there, that I would not kill anything. There would be no killing at all, not even a mosquito. And so when there was this bed bug infestation, we didn't even kill the bed bugs, but rather collected them. And so when you think about all of this stuff, I just wonder what it is and how we choose to show forth in the world as who we are. What is our values? What's yours? I mean, the heck, I got my own set, but many people don't ever give thought to what it is that they think or believe about their life and its impact on others. um, on anything. And this is not to otherize people per se, but to simply think about what it is that you believe about this life that is your life. Now, I want to say this too, because this has come out of my meditation, that the moment I sit in judgment of other people, I cut myself off from them. It's the walls that we create that block our own miracles. And so a lot of times we don't see, because we've got these blocks that are there, because we perceive it not being possible. We perceive, like even this thing of people being able to be in contact with their ancestors, right? You cannot often because you believe not. Wonder if there is this magical world that you exist in, that the world itself has an amazing, um, is alive. Everything is alive. And there is an alchemical process that happens with just some of everything. And wonder if we discovered this and know this to be true. But the reason why we don't experience it is because we don't believe it. You cannot because you believe not. I mean, I could say Yoda said that, but if you think about even the things that maybe Jesus said or any biblical person, it is partly we see what we expect to see. And so if somebody has told you that you won't, that none of this is real, if somebody has caused you to not believe, then what you will do is that even when you see things to the contrary, you close your eyes because that can't be true. Or you'll act as if you're scared and want to run from it. And so there is this, for me, I just want to be a part of the crew that is believing in a magical universe and knowing that anything is possible. Isn't that what we heard? It's possible. We heard the songs, we talk about it, and we there's a part of us that seems to recognize that anything is possible, but we don't necessarily act on it. I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine, and one of the things that she was like, she said, and I took it as, I don't want to say a compliment. I took it as a bit of a criticism. She said something like, "Oh, she wanted to take a nap, but she was making it sound like, oh, I can't take a nap." And she was like, "But you always, this always the right time to take a nap." And I was like, yeah, you know? So going back to that idea where I talked about this being an energy vortex that will suck everything down that is, unless you're actively pushing it up. Um, yes, I believe in being able to take a nap, but also remember that there are creatives among us that know that this ability um, to sit in repose, right? That's why they have those chase lounges. That's why they have different things to sit in repose and to just be able to ponder is something that is necessary for creatives. And so if you are a writer, if you and that's any kind, do you think that people who do these TV, these movies or whatever, that it's all about the grind? I mean, there has to be some space to just sit and ponder and wonder. There's got to be space for repose. There's got to be space to imagine and to dream. And without that space, then it all becomes a drudgery. It all becomes this, and here's the thing, because the narrative that we've created or somebody has created before us is about the work ethic. And the work ethic says that you've got to have your nose to the grindstone in order for you to get ahead. But wonder if what we looked at and saw evidence of is that the ability to ponder, to sit in repose, to think about, to have these insights, awarenesses is what is a real game changer, a difference maker. Who was it? Was it Henry Ford who used to sit in a room every day, a white room with nothing on the walls, every day with a table, a pen, and a pencil, and a chair, and sit for ideas? And when we allow ourselves to just have those moments of repose where we just sit and wait for ideas, there is also the ability or the necessity to have the time and space to really develop the ideas that come. But if we're busy othering people, making it seem like, oh, you're bad because you're not doing or you don't have the same kind of work ethic that I do. If we sit in judgment, again, those judgments become the blocks that don't allow us to see the gifts that might be inherent in the ability to take a nap, or the ability to have repose, the ability to become one with nature. My mother was one who always, like, she would be a person who would stare out of the window, and she would stare at the trees and at the grass and all of those things. And while that is amazing to me and it's good for me, I used to wonder what it was that she saw. Was it a, a mainframe where she could place all of her worries and all of her fears, or was it something talking to her and speaking to her? So when I look out, is something speaking to me. There's something beautiful and wonderful that I'm experiencing, but I know that that's not the truth for everyone. We have so many people in our society that poo-poo upon what it is that you desire to do. So whether it is having the ability to take naps, or to sit in wait of ideas, or whatever, there's so many people that will try to make it seem like what they're doing is right and everything that you're doing is wrong. And so being able to then, be generous and gentle with yourself, to say, you know what, this is how I get the best out of me. This is what allows me to stir up ideas, to think, to create, and then do that instead of thinking that you've got to be like everybody else. Be generous with yourself. As a matter of fact, be generous with everybody. And just being able to say that as you do it, ooh, I like it and it's good. Good morning, Michael. How are you? So all of this has been about, just trying to figure out what it is that you can do in order to cultivate this being, this amazing being that is you. And for me, as I sit and I listen to the different things that are said to me, it's in part me showing up, and showing up in a boldness that says, this may not be, I may not be the person that you think I ought to be, but damn it, I am who I am. And this too is good. So I may not fit in with your idea and your group. I may not be the person who sits quietly by and accepts what is. I may not be the person who believes in might make right. I may not be all of those things that with the work ethic and with the with the stuff that you have perceived to be the way to be, that we have been told to be, taught to be, right? I may not be any of that stuff, but who I am is good. You say blessed, and when God made me, He broke the mold. The world wasn't ready for two of you. I know that's right, Michael. And it's so funny because I don't know why we perceive that there was a mold in the first place, right? Um, each and every one of us is a unique and wonderful individualized expression of God right here. And so, yeah, it don't need to be two of us. If you are doing your job, showing up to be who you are, then what it's just a waste to make two, right? So so when and even as I ponder that sort of idea, it's like, oh, I want to be the full me that I can be. So I trust that you are doing that as well. um, I'm going to share with you because I don't know. I'm going to share the. I've been kind of sitting here just kind of going along and had not shared my daily guides at this point, and I'm going to do that, and then I think I'm going to get off of here early because I got really a lot of stuff on my plate today. Today is actually Fat Tuesday, so happy Fat Tuesdays to everybody. And that's interesting too because on Fat Tuesday it used to be that I went over to Mozzie's place for Mardi Gras, and we partied and drank, those hurricanes, and ate food, whether it was gumbo or whatever, and pushkis and all of that good stuff that they would normally do for Fat Tuesday or for Mardi Gras, for tomorrow, which is Lent. And Lent, as you know, many of you know, I've shared here before. Lent is a season that leads up to Easter Sunday, and what many people, Catholics especially, choose to do during the Lenten season is to give up Fridays. Fridays is, they don't eat any meat, or whatever it is, that choices that people do. They've done something that causes them to, you know, to set this season aside for um, evaluation, a reevaluation of themselves and their values, all of that good stuff. So, um, yeah, I just, you know, how are you celebrating this Lenten season? So Michael says, when I was bad, I was very bad, but now I changed. Now I'm a new man. When I was a child, I thought and acted as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things and became the man God intended me to be. Very good, Michael. It's so, it here's the funny thing. Yes, amen to that, right? But here's the funny thing. I used to think that God had a particular image of how Sandra ought to be, because that was what people told me, was that, you ought to be the person that God wants you to be. But what I found out was is that I was being, whether people agreed with it or not, when I was being true to me, I was being who God intended me to be. If I am acting contrary to my general nature, then I'm not being the person who God would have me be. I'm being the person who other people would have me be. So I started paying attention to my truth and walking in my own truth. And that was when I found and encountered this thing called God. Not when I was walking according to other people's estimations. So that is a beautiful and wonderful thing, but a lot of times we misidentify God and God's acceptance of us by trying to be acceptable to other people. So I always feel the need to, not saying anything about anybody else, but I always, when people um, tell me about what God wants, I, I don't want you to perceive God as a separate entity from yourself. That God works through you and as you, not not in conflict with you. So, um, so good, good, good. All right, let me read this, and then it's almost time anyway. So Fat Tuesday. This is not saying Fat Tuesday in here that I can see, but it is. This is by Reverend Raymond Anderson, and it is titled "Poking and Prying with a Purpose." Poking and prying with a purpose. And his first quote comes from Zora Neale Hurston, "Dust Tracks on a Road." And here is what the quote is: Researchers formalized curiosity. Researchers formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. It is seeking that the person who wishes may know the cosmic secrets of the world and that dwell therein. And from Ernest Holmes, there is nothing in the universe that limits us or that would or could desire to limit you. There is nothing in the universe that withholds from you, because in so doing it would withhold from itself. You are some part of its purpose. Therefore, the Spirit seeks, urges, pushes against you to fulfill itself. And yes, yes, yes. I think that that's what I just said. And that is from Ernest Holmes' Thoughts Are Things. So here is what Reverend Raymond wrote for today. He says, "Why do we study New Thought practices and principles?" Finish this sentence. "I study science of mind and spirit so that." That's what he asked. He goes on to say, "The stories of how we each discovered any of the New Thought teachings are as vast and as personal as our lives themselves, and yet there are certain things common to all of us. We were seeking something different, something more. We were seeking freedom, acceptance, and answers. And having found unity, agape, divine science, religious science, many of us stopped seeking and we stopped poking and prying with a purpose." Okay, none of that was true for me, but okay. This state of complacency is not a demonstration of what it means to be open at the top. Imagine, if you will, you are visiting Paris and find an amazing restaurant. Having found it, you choose to dine there and nowhere else. What other possible delicacies, pleasures, and experiences are you denying yourself simply because you are satisfied with where you are? I am not saying we should not be content or satisfied with our lives, but I am suggesting that when contentment and satisfaction close off our willingness to evolve, contribute, serve, and know the cosmic secrets that Hurston mentioned above, we do a disservice to ourselves and to the world. Holmes reminds us we should follow Jesus' teachings and seek to make it practical in everyday living. The affirmation that he put with this is: today I poke, pry, and seek and apply with the purpose of living as the ever expanding consciousness, individualizing itself as me. That's great. That is great. Um, so Michael says, I'm grateful God allowed me to pop in to hear your message today because I started work at 8 but had this time free for your message. All glory to God for you and your message today. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's amazing how things come together. And sometimes, it is this, as we show up, we get exactly what it is that we're supposed to have, no matter whenever we show up, if we're open and receptive to that. And so being open and me doing this is just because it enlivens and blesses me. So I'm so glad that it blesses you too. So allow yourself the space to live your truth, and don't be so, sometimes we can be so like nose to the grindstone and thinking, and life passes us by without us ever having lived. And that's what I want for you, that you have life and that more abundantly, that that it be good for you and to you and all of those wonderful things. And being curious. Sometimes being curious means stepping outside of the bounds that have been imposed upon us. And what does that look like, right? What does that boundaries look like? And sometimes it's like being a fish in water. Fish in the water sometimes don't know that they're in water until they're out. We don't even recognize the boundaries of thought until we try to move beyond them. So it's good when we move outside of that. Walker says, standing in my truth of who God says I am according to Psalms 139 and 14. Okay. Okay. So if that is a scripture, then that means that that's who God would say everybody is, right? So no matter who reads that, that's it's the same, huh? And so, I'm just I don't have my Bible here, but okay. I get that. I got my computer here. Let me do that. I'm gonna do that so that all of us can be on the same page. 139 and 14. So here we go. So I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right. Okay. Okay. And so that's, and so all I'm saying, and all I say, Walker, is like you are living out your truth, right? You found what it is your calling is. Whether your ministry is through food and feeding people's soul, you're living out what it is that is within you. And there are so many people out here who never find what is within them because they're busy running somebody else's race, or doing, you know, what they think their neighbors will be impressed with, or doing what'll just, make them the most money. So many people are not living their truth. And so it's, for me, it is more than just, saying yes and amen to somebody else's estimation of who I should be or what I ought to do, and really walking in my truth. So, yeah, it's good. And you also back up what you say. You let your yes be yes and your no be no. Yes, and true. But I also try to suspend suspend judgment for some time. To not just cut off things because it doesn't jibe with what I know. And so part of it is let me be open and curious, which is what, the theme of the month is through the book. Let me be open and curious. And then when I have all the information that I need, then I can make a yes or a no in a way that is, in a way that is honest, and not just a knee jerk reaction. So sometimes I think we say no too quickly. Um, Sometimes we say yes too quickly. But I think all of that is important, and I love to just be in that vein. Good morning, Val. I was just talking about you earlier, yeah, about that about that cooking thing. Good morning. Amen. You are so wise and helpful. You are a blessing. Thank you, darling. I'm just being good old me that I am, and that it resonates is good. So thank you for that. All right, so it is time for me to bounce off of here. Happy Fat Tuesday, y'all. I don't know what that is going to mean for any of you. I don't even know myself. I mean, maybe I can. Maybe I'm gonna make some red beans and rice, and I don't know, something delicious to celebrate the day. We'll be having a hurricane, but something delicious to celebrate the day. So I'm wishing all of y'all an amazing day, and so I will see you on the other side, which will tomorrow be the first day of Lent. So blessings to you, and I hope you have an amazingly juicy, delicious day. All right. I'm sitting up here saying goodbye, and I ain't even found the little thing to click off to say goodbye, but never can say goodbye. No, 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 no. Grace and peace and blessings to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.